It's 7 p.m. Tuesday, August 27th, here in Seoul.
Coming up on News Center tonight. Ignoring Korea's numerous calls for talks, Japan announces its revised export control order will take effect as of Wednesday, which would remove South Korea off its whitelist of trading partners.
The South Korean government says it is willing to reconsider its decision to terminate a military intel sharing pact with Japan if Tokyo withdraws its trade curbs.
With less than a week until the confirmation hearing for the controversial Justice Minister nominee Cho Kuk, prosecutors execute a surprise raid at multiple locations at the heart of the corruption allegations surrounding Cho and his family.
And K-pop group BTS win 2 awards at the American MTV Video Music Awards. As the BTS sensation continues, experts from around the world gather for a conference to dissect the so-called BTS phenomenon. NEWSCENTER begins now.
Good evening and welcome to Arirang News Center. Live from Seoul, I'm Han Daeun.
And I'm Noaram. Thank you for joining us this evening. Our top story. Amid escalating tensions between Seoul and Tokyo, Japan says it will remove South Korea off its so-called whitelist as planned from tomorrow.
The move is expected to further damage the already fragile ties between the two Asian neighbors. We begin with our Yoon Jung-min.
Japan's Trade Minister Hiroshige Seko said that Tokyo will go ahead with its plan to take Seoul off its whitelist of trusted trading partners as planned. Seko told reporters on Tuesday after a cabinet meeting that the Japanese government will carry out the plan, denying criticism that the move is intended to harm the South Korean economy. He reiterated that the decision is part of its plan to properly manage export controls, not meant to impact relations between Seoul and Tokyo. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga also said in a briefing that the revised export control order will go into effect on Wednesday. Earlier, South Korean Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun said Seoul may reconsider its decision to end the military intelligence sharing pact with Tokyo if Japan retracts its trade curbs on the country. Suga said the two matters cannot be linked together. Japan implemented exports restrictions on 3 key high-tech materials used in semiconductors back in July and decided to exclude South Korea off its whitelist of preferential trading partners in August. Although Japan denies it, the act is widely seen as retaliation against last year's ruling by the South Korean Supreme Court on victims of forced labor during the Japanese colonial rule. Once removed from the whitelist, Japanese exporters have to get the case-by-case approval from the government every 6 months instead of every 3 years to ship items classified as strategic goods to South Korea. The approval may take about 90 days for non-whitelist countries, while it usually takes about a week for whitelist countries. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
The South Korean government says it could reconsider the termination of its military intel sharing pact with Japan should Tokyo withdraw its trade curbs. The remarks came during a meeting among the government, the ruling party, and the presidential office. Also discussed was next year's budget, which is set to rise by around 9% from this year. Our Kim Min-ji at the National Assembly for us tonight.
South Korea has hinted that it could reconsider its decision to pull out of its military intel sharing pact with Japan should Tokyo take appropriate action. Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun made the remarks during a high-level meeting between the ruling party government and the presidential office on Tuesday to discuss follow-up measures to Japan's trade curbs. He said that maintaining GSOMIA is no longer in the country's interest after Tokyo removes Seoul from its list of trusted trading partners.
There's almost 3 months left before GSOMIA expires on November 23rd. There's room for reconsideration should Japan lift its export curbs and come to the negotiating table.
The three sides also agreed on the need for an expansionary budget for next year to tackle the headwinds facing the country, including Tokyo's trade retaliation. The 2020 budget plan, which will be finalized on Thursday, is expected to amount to over $420 billion, a hike of about 9% on year. Of that, more than $1.6 billion will be set aside to help local industries cope with Japan's trade curbs.
If there's a word to describe the conditions facing the South Korean economy, it's uncertainty. The 2020 budget will be the basis for the country to overcome downside economic risks, tackle Japan's export curbs, and step up industrial competitiveness.
And with a regular session of the National Assembly set to kick off in September, they called for cooperation from the opposition bloc to work on pending bills related to people's livelihoods, as well as next year's government budget.
During the final regular session of the 20th National Assembly, our focus will be taking care of people's livelihoods. We have a lot on our plate, including government interpellation sessions, state audits, as well as deliberating pending bills. We'll also do our best to smoothly pass the budget bill to revive the economy.
The three sides said their utmost priority is reviving the economy and dealing with Japan's trade curbs, vowing close cooperation between Parliament and the government to bring about positive changes the people can feel. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Nearly 10,000 people in Japan have signed a petition in the last month urging Tokyo to lift its trade restrictions against Seoul. The petition was organized by the group petitioning on whether South Korea is a foe that consists of Japan's social leaders ranging from scholars, legal professionals to activists. The group stressed that it is absurd for Japan to treat South Korea like an enemy and that Seoul is an important neighbor in establishing peace and prosperity in the region based on free democracy. It urged the Abe administration to stop dividing the people of the two countries and said Tokyo should hold talks with the South Korean government. The group is to hold a protest in Tokyo on Saturday, as well as a briefing explaining the results of the petition and discussing what people can do to improve Seoul-Tokyo ties. Amid mounting controversy over President Moon Jae-in's Justice Minister nominee Cho Kuk, the prosecution has raided multiple places related to the allegations surrounding Cho and his family. Rival parties, meanwhile, are still at odds over the witness selection of Cho's confirmation hearing set for next week. Our Kim Mo-gyun has late details.
Prosecutors conducted simultaneous raids Tuesday on several places related to alleged corruption by Justice Minister nominee Cho Kuk. The Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office sent investigators to Seoul National University and Korea University to search for evidence that Cho's daughter received preferential treatment in her college admissions. They also raided Busan Medical Center over allegations that the head of the center helped Cho's daughter get more than $9,800 in scholarships when she attended a medical graduate school in Busan. The prosecution also raided the offices of a private equity fund in which Cho's family has made dubious investments and on a private school foundation run by his mother. Addressing reporters on Tuesday, the former senior presidential secretary for civil affairs said that he will not comment on the prosecutor's raids and once again vowed to explain himself at his confirmation hearing.
I hope that all these suspicions can be cleared up through the prosecutor's investigation, but allegations that are not based on truth should not block the path towards prosecutorial and judiciary reform. I will prepare faithfully for the confirmation hearing. Thank you.
Meanwhile, over at the National Assembly, the ruling Democratic Party leadership has finally accepted a decision by the Parliament's Judiciary Committee to hold a confirmation hearing for Cho for 2 days on September 2nd and 3rd. The approval came after a day of bipartisan debate in which voices of opposition emerged from the ruling bloc over both the duration and the date of the hearings. With the latest announcement, Cho Kuk will now become the 7th minister-level nominee to undergo a 2-day hearing. But there's still a lot for the rival parties to work through before that happens, especially on the issue of witnesses to call. The main opposition party wants to question some 80 people, including Cho's family, while the ruling party strongly opposes the idea, claiming it's a political offensive. Kim Mo-gyun, Arirang News.
This Thursday, the Supreme Court will make a final ruling on the corruption case that led to the impeachment and imprisonment of former President Park and Lee. The highest court will make a judgment on whether certain actions involving Park and those around her constitute bribery. Our Choi Si-young has this report.
On Thursday, the Supreme Court of Korea will rule on 3 corruption cases involving former President Park and Lee, her confidant Choi Soon-sil, and Samsung Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong. The hearing will be televised with the audience selected randomly beforehand. Currently, appeals courts have separately sentenced Park to 25 years in prison and her confidant Choi to 20 years behind bars. But Samsung Vice Chairman Lee got his prison sentence reduced on appeal from 5 years to a 2.5-year suspended sentence. The 3 defendants are facing mostly corruption and power abuse charges. And the Supreme Court will rule on some contentious issues that brought all 3 cases to the highest court. Previously, the appeals courts gave different verdicts over whether Samsung gave 3 horses to Choi's daughter in exchange for business favors. The appeals courts for Park and Choi said there was an exchange of favors, but the appeals court for Lee said Choi didn't come to own the horses and there is no exchange of favors. If the Supreme Court decides there were bribes, Park Geun-hye and Choi Soon-sil could face 32 and 23-year prison terms respectively, and Lee would have to seek for a retrial at the appeals court that released him from detention. If the Supreme Court rules that there weren't bribes, Park and Choi will go back to a retrial at the appeals court where they will likely see their prison terms reduced. Or the Supreme Court could say only one of those 2 things, either ownership transfer or business favors, happened, which should send Park, Choi, and Lee all back to retrial at the appeals court. In that case, it'll be some time before there's any final ruling on the corruption scandal. Chuseok, Arirang News.
US President Donald Trump has again touted the economic potential of North Korea if it changes its ways. Speaking at the G7 summit, Trump seemed to hint at sanctions relief as long as the regime gets rid of its nuclear weapons. Lee Seung-jae reports.
At a press conference alongside French President Emmanuel Macron at the G7 summit in France on Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump once again stressed the amazing economic potential North Korea has yet to realize, while also reiterating his good personal relationship with the regime's young leader.
I also say that, by the way, with respect to North Korea. Kim Jong-un, who I've gotten to know extremely well, First Lady has gotten to know Kim Jong-un, and I think she'd agree with me. He is a man with a country that has tremendous potential.
Trump also noted North Korea's geographical location between South Korea, China, and Russia, saying that barring flying, the only way to reach the South is through the North. Observers say President Trump's remark about the regime's economic potential seems to allude to the sanctions relief and other economic concessions Washington would offer Pyongyang if it agrees to abandon its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. While talks between the 2 sides have largely stalled since the 2 leaders' second summit in Vietnam in February, Trump continued to express confidence in Kim Jong-un, even dismissing the regime's recent series of short-range ballistic missile tests as unimportant. Asked about the possibility of another face-to-face with Kim, Trump said they will probably have one. Earlier at the G7, President Trump made similar remarks regarding the economic potential of Iran if it ends its nuclear program and becomes a responsible member of the international community. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea is planning to hold an event next month to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Inter-Korean Summit held in Pyongyang last year. But Seoul hasn't notified Pyongyang of its plan and is organizing the event alone. Seoul's Unification Ministry said this was because there was still plenty of time left and that North Korea's recent attitude hasn't helped. Pyongyang has continuously condemned Seoul for carrying out a joint military exercise with the US and introducing new military assets. The government said it's holding the event to show the North its willingness to implement last year's joint declaration, expressing hopes that Pyongyang would respond positively and take part. South Korean consumers appear to be losing confidence in the local economy. The Consumer Sentiment Index for August, based on a survey of 2,500 households, fell to its lowest level in more than 2 years. Kim Hye-sung reports.
South Korea's consumer sentiment fell near 3.5 points on month to 92.5 in August. According to the Bank of Korea, the index has fallen for a 4th consecutive month. It's at the lowest level since January 2017 and its second lowest since the 2008 global financial crisis. A reading below 100 means there are more pessimists than optimists about the local economy. The central bank pointed to Japan's export restrictions, the escalating U.S.-China trade dispute, sluggish exports, and a worsening stock market as main reasons for the fall.
Many stores, including restaurants around my neighborhood, have closed down. The taxi drivers I talk to these days all say they feel the economy is bad. There's hardly anyone saying the economy is doing well. It's in fact worsening. So as for what to do, cut spending, save more cash.
The global economy is already slowing down. All the news about Trump, North Korea, Japan's Abe, the fall in the stock markets just adds to uncertainties and concerns over the domestic and global economy.
All 6 sub-indices that make up the Consumer Sentiment Index dropped. The sub-index on households' income outlook dropped 2 points to 94 for August, the lowest level since April 2009. The sub-indices on current and future domestic economic conditions also declined to 63 and 66 respectively. Inflation expectations fell to an all-time low of 2%. The sharp fall in consumer confidence comes as Korean policymakers sound increasingly downbeat about the economy. Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol had said last week the bank's 2.2% growth forecast for 2019 would not be achievable if exports and investment remain sluggish. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in has rolled out his new presidential car, and it's powered by hydrogen fuel cells. The Nexo SUV, made by Hyundai, was revealed on the grounds of the Blue House earlier today. 5 of the same model will also be used by the president's security service. The top office said Moon chose the vehicle to promote what it called the hydrogen economy and to demonstrate efforts in fighting fine dust pollution. The Moon administration has been promoting hydrogen technology as one of South Korea's future growth engines. An American YouTuber has put up a video in New York's Times Square to raise awareness about Korea's Dokdo Islets and Japan's sexual enslavement of Korean women during World War II. Choi Jung-yoon reports.
The South Korean national flag appears in the middle of the Times Square in New York. The video shows pictures of South Korea's easternmost Dokdo Island and the statues of so-called comfort women, who were forced to serve as sexual slaves for Japanese soldiers during World War II. This video was produced by an American YouTube creator, Chad Tanner, in his desire to raise awareness of Korea's historical issues.
Basically, I just wanted to raise awareness kind of about the relationship between Korea and Japan, and specifically about comfort women and about the sexual slavery that they suffered at the hands of Japan in the 1930s and 1940s.
As a YouTube creator with over 214,000 subscribers, Chad says he looks for ways to raise awareness in an exciting and attention-grabbing matter. So he decided to post advertisements on Times Square in New York for everyone to see. In his YouTube video, he stops pedestrians in Times Square and explains the historical background of conflict over Dokdo Island and the cruelty of Japan's wartime sex slavery. However, he says making the video and actually getting the permission for the Times Square billboard wasn't easy. The billboard's rule required advertisements to be free from any political or religious stance that can be deemed controversial. He found the solution by attracting the audience to visit the website he created.
Bought a domain, visitdokdo.com, where people could go to learn more about Dokdo, comfort women, and so I linked out to some other websites. So that was kind of the goal.
Chad's initial intention succeeded as many South Koreans were motivated to share the issue globally. In his comments, many South Korean viewers were encouraged to share the story with their foreign friends. As more than 85% of his viewers are South Korean and he has a deep affection for the country, he hopes to share the stories of South Koreans being treated unfairly during the Japanese colonial era.
So I'd like to spread some more awareness about comfort women, but also in the future other issues that are going to be important to Korean people and that they want to be shared globally.
The advertisements were run in New York Times Square on August 13th for 50 times over a period of 12 hours. Choi Jung-yoon, Arirang News.
K-pop group BTS's global success and popularity continues, and this time they won 2 trophies at the American MTV Video Music Awards. The boy band took home the Best K-pop and Best Group honors at the awards ceremony in New Jersey on Monday local time. It's the first time BTS was honored with a trophy at the American MTV Awards. The group was also nominated in 3 other categories: art direction, collaboration and choreography. Now, many have asked how the Korean boy band BTS became a global sensation. Well, to get some answers, an international conference is taking place right here in Seoul, looking at BTS fandom and also the content of their music and image. Won Jung-hwan reports.
International experts from a range of fields are at the BTS Inside Forum in southern Seoul this week to discuss K-pop group BTS and their contribution to the world. This is the first time a large-scale international forum has been held under the theme of a K-pop artist. During the forum, a lecturer who teaches Korean language and culture in the US said the group's sincerity and the positive message of their songs is helping students around the world.
It's hard to imagine how comforting and helpful it is to those minority students to just express themselves. BTS is teaching them how to express themselves in a language which is not even their mother tongue.
BTS have more than 22 million followers on Twitter, but the analysis of the group's relationship with their fans through social media looks beyond the numbers. A local lecturer highlighted the significant role the BTS fan group ARMY have played in promoting the group through social media.
ARMY fans always say they are a fandom that exists for good causes such as donations and charity, because they have learned how to be a better person through BTS.
Another perspective brought to the discussion highlighted how the group is helping break down traditional gender roles.
Boys learn not to cry for attention. Boys learn to be silent. So I'm interested in the way in which BTS express their emotions. I also suggest that it is a resistance to hegemonic masculinity.
The 3-day forum will finish on Wednesday, but similar topics will be discussed at the BTS conference held in the UK next January. Won Jung-hwan, Arirang News.
South Korea's major cultural sites will be open for free during this upcoming Chuseok holiday. 4 major palaces and 22 royal tombs will be open free of charge for 4 days starting September 12th. All highways across the country will also be toll-free from September 12th to the 14th. The move aims to promote local tourism during the traditional Thanksgiving holiday. There will also be a special discount for domestic tour packages during the holiday period. Devastating blazes have spread across the Amazon rainforest this summer, spewing millions of tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere each day. And to save the lungs of the world that produce 20% of the Earth's oxygen, the leaders of the G7 nations have vowed to help Brazil combat the fire. Our Kim Jae-hee reports.
The largest tropical forest in the world has been burning by wildfires for the 3rd week now, prompting world leaders to step up and call for efforts to save what's known as the lungs of the planet. The Amazon fires took center stage on the G7 summit on Saturday local time as French President Emmanuel Macron declared the situation a global emergency.
The Amazon is our common good. The fires affect all of us. Regarding the Amazon, we will not only launch a call, but also launch action from all the world powers present.
On Sunday, Macron announced that the G7 had agreed to an immediate fund of at least $20 million to help Amazon countries fight the wildfires and launch a long-term global initiative to protect the rainforest. According to BBC News, more than 75,000 forest fires occurred in Brazil this year, the highest number since 2013. The Amazon rainforest covers at least 5.5 million square kilometers, nearly 25 times the size of the Korean peninsula. The rainforest is known to be home to a unique array of flora and fauna species. The Amazon River provides 20% of the planet's unfrozen freshwater as well. The forest is crucial to regulating global warming as it absorbs more carbon dioxide and produces at least 20% of the world's oxygen. The fires are not only destroying such important natural asset, but also releasing some 228 megatons of carbon dioxide, the highest amount since 2010.
Fires are directly burning into Amazon rainforests, and that releases the carbon stored in those trees. The carbon then enters the atmosphere as carbon dioxide or methane, where it contributes to the greenhouse gases that are causing climate change, bringing us a warmer and a drier planet.
International efforts to tackle the flames are ongoing, and amid pressure from the global community, the Brazilian government has deployed some 44,000 troops and military vehicles to help tackle the fires. The cause of the fire is yet to be found, but the scale and scope of the damage have already raised concerns over the impact on climate change and the fight against global warming. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
The Seoul-based Korea Institute for International Economic Policy will be hosting a global forum this Thursday on creating a people-centered community for peace and prosperity. Under the title DMZ International Forum on the Peace Economy, some 300 experts from around the world will gather in Seoul to discuss the Korean peace process and international cooperation in East Asia. Prior to the forum on Wednesday, some of the participants will visit the border village of Panmunjom and the joint security area.
A South Korean military professor has identified some key properties of Novichok, said to be the world's deadliest chemical weapon. Chung Geun-hong, a professor at the Korea Military Academy, had been studying Novichok since March last year to help prepare against its use in a terror attack or in war. Developed by the Soviet Union, Novichok is believed to have been used last year in England in a failed attempt to assassinate a former Russian spy and his daughter. It's said to be 5 to 8 times more lethal than VX nerve agent, but its properties had remained largely unknown. Professor Jung's study revealed that Novichok combines more tightly with enzymes than other nerve agents, making antidotes less effective. His paper was published early this month in Royal Society Open Science. Indonesia has announced that it's moving its capital from the crowded megacity of Jakarta to eastern Borneo. President Joko Widodo made the announcement on Monday, saying that Borneo is the part of the country least prone to natural disasters and that it's a strategic location at the center of Indonesia. It's the third largest island on Earth and is home to just 10 million people. Jakarta will remain a financial and business hub, but there are concerns that the move could hasten the destruction of Borneo's rainforests and increase pollution. South Korea's only women's international baseball tournament has wrapped up its 5-day run. A Japanese team beat an American team 5-4 in the final of the LG Cup on Monday in Icheon, Gyeonggi-do Province. The winning side was awarded with a trophy made of local Icheon porcelain. 2 teams from Korea each finished 3rd and 6th. Women living in Seoul alone have access to a special parcel service where they can pick up their packages from a secure locker in a public place if they don't feel safe opening the door for a delivery at home. The lockers can now be used to send parcels. The Seoul Metropolitan Government has 232 of the machines, mostly located in residential areas with a large number of one-person households. That has been your 3-minute Newsflash. It is that time now where we take a look at some of Arirang's digital media content.
And Anya News is back, taking a look at the top trending stories.
Hello everyone, I am Eun-kyung, a news reporter at Arirang TV. Here are today's Anya News. A massive wildfire in Amazon horrifying people across the globe, and armies out to put out the fire? You might wonder what I'm talking about. The Amazon in South Africa is burning at a record rate, causing international outrage over the deforestation in the world's largest rainforest. Recognizing the incident needs worldwide attention, a fan community of K-pop group BTS is out to protect the Amazon. Army is using the power of social media to spread word of the blast on Twitter, with tens of thousands of people tweeting the hashtag Army Help the Planet to promote more awareness of the tragic incident. Army's efforts have even caught the attention of the American news agency CNN and were included in its news coverage of the fire. Nice work, Army! Let's hope the planet's most vital protective means against climate change can be preserved. South Korea is once again solidifying its position as a winter sports powerhouse thanks to a biathlon hero from Russia. Timofey Levchin has covered himself in gold medal glory representing South Korea at the 2019 IBU Summer Biathlon World Championship in Laovichi, Belarus. So, is he South Korean? Levchin became a naturalized Korean citizen in 2017 and has been a member of the national biathlon team ever since. He was in the Russian national team from 2008 to 2016. However, as he failed to board the team due to factional dispute, he chose Korean naturalization to continue his career. Korea is rooting for his future and looking forward to more record-breaking feats. Global warming, food shortages, and less land to cultivate food. I bet some of you have heard these warnings from scientists or environmental experts. Here's some food that humans can utilize in the future. Knorr, one of the brands owned by Unilever, cited fonio, moringa, and nopo cactus as the foods of the future. Fonio is one of the fastest growing grains in the world. Even in the dry soil environment of West Africa, it can ripen in 60 to 70 days. Native to South Asia, moringa is called the miracle tree. It is able to withstand droughts and grows quickly, so the leaves can be harvested up to 7 times a year. And lastly, nopo cactus can grow easily in dry environments. All these ingredients have two things in common. They're rich in nutrients and very tolerant to infertile soil. We might see these grains on our dinner table in the near future. Who knows? That's all for today, and if you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe. I see you around. Bye-bye!
We were under lots of cloud cover today, whereas the southern regions continue to see heavy rain, and there's still more rain in the forecast.
For more details, let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle.
Now, heavy rain has been drenching Jeju and the south coast with up to 57 millimeters per hour of rainfall. Now, the heavy precipitation is caused by an autumn monsoonal front that's developed after cold air combining with the hot air rising from the south. In addition, steam left behind by the Typhoon Bailu contributed to the development of the heavy rain clouds. Now, the southern provinces will mostly see up to 30 millimeters of rain until tonight. However, the south coast and Jeju Island have been issued with heavy rain alerts, with precipitation expected to prolong until Thursday, drenching the area with up to 300 millimeters of rain. Now, like the capital, where there are no signs of rain, we can expect some nice sunny spells tomorrow, along with some cloudy intervals. But in the afternoon, some areas may see some drizzles. And going over to our readings in detail, Seoul will wake up to 22 degrees Celsius tomorrow, while Daegu wakes up to 23 degrees. Jeju, on the other hand, remains on the hot side to 25 degrees. The country's daily highs will be hovering in the high 20s tomorrow. Seoul topping out to 29 degrees, Busan 27, Jeju heading up to 28 degrees. And keep in mind that we have frequent rain in the forecast this week. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That will do it for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you as always for watching.
News in Depth is next.